Outsider information here on Versify is now here on YouTube. So this is our first video on the platform, and it's been a long time since I've been on video personally, so we're going to hopefully not be too rusty and keep this under 20 minutes. Let's get it. Welcome back to Outsider Information. Again, the first video episode here on YouTube as part of our platform on Versify. And this is a special one because the title is 100% representative of what we're going to be talking about. I own a company, and in a lot of ways it feels surreal to say it. It's starting to feel more normal, but here we are. Right? Sometimes things go in directions that you weren't expecting. But before we dive too deep in, I want to introduce you not just to me, but the space as a whole. We've got this, which is now the studio, the office, the laboratory of what's going to be conducted in terms of this podcast and in business. I don't believe in unnatural backgrounds, those blurred backgrounds, those artificial backgrounds. You're going to get all natural here, which means you get the fish tank in the back and anything else that might decide to show up there as well, which could be one or both of the cats. So be prepared for that. There's a 14-inch eel hanging out back in the tank. His name is Monty, and I got a couple of fish in there too. But you'll get to be acquainted with them as we progress. But what are we here for? I own a company, and that company is OIAS, Outsider Information Adaptive Strategies, which is an extension off of this podcast. And the podcast is an extension off of what OIAS ended up being. And it was a really long time coming when you decide to make a move like this. It's not in a vacuum. Yes, the sprint, the 3 weeks of how everything came together, that was the last bit of time that I spent, but the guts of everything really were there long in advance because I kind of felt like this was going to be the end game. That being said, there is a reluctant feeling to this. I've outlined just kind of the journey I've had towards what I've wanted to do and some of the struggles that have existed with it. So when I initially started to put all this together, I was dragging my feet more so than I was before I committed to what I'm going to be currently doing. And it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment to just tell yourself and tell others around you that you're going to be going fully independent. And some ways it doesn't really feel like work because you're not bringing in the income right away. But the effort to build something out, to make something yours, to put the branding together, the messaging, all that, it takes a ton. It takes a ton of drive, willpower, and honestly, now that we're a day away from launch, I'm recording this on a Sunday, we're going live tomorrow, Monday, May 5th, everything feels right. So again, we're going to get into all of that. The podcast is going to be a primary method of advertising, not just what we're doing, but to explore some different topics in ways that I probably couldn't before because I was worried about what a future employer would think about what we talked about. So the podcast is going to be a free resource, and I don't plan on losing my soul as a piece of this. There are some things that I do want to keep in place, like the drink of the episode, which it is not opened yet, but this 1858 bottle, I bought it a year ago. May 10th last year was when I defended my dissertation, and that was a bottle I bought, saving it for when I got the job that I wanted. Weirdly enough, a year later, it's right there, so I will make sure that that gets opened up this evening as a way to toast what's going to be a brand new beginning. So that's really that. Changes to the space. Outside of adding video, there's not going to be a whole lot. Maybe tossing some production value as we get into some more in-depth topics, as I'm creating resources, things for people to use. We'll see there. But again, this is going to be free. I'm not charging, or there's not going to be a paywall, and I really hope that this doesn't turn into something where I've got advertisers knocking down my door, because I want this to remain what it is. It will be more regular. Again, this is going to be in some ways advertising for what I'm doing, but a way to give some resources back based off of the expertise that I have. The articles are going to remain. That is something that I really enjoy doing, which is writing. I have had other contributors there. I do hope to bring some of that back now that we've kind of got a direction where this is going. But a lot of them will be routed through the website that I have, which that link is in the description, and still through Medium. Guests, I do hope to have actual guests on video. I know I teased that in the past, but with as many topics in the world of business as there are, I can't cover them all. And I do want to let experts show off their expertise. So we're going to do that. There's going to be a little bit more nuance. I'm going to have some shorts, quick things. Again, it's all about giving resources, things that people can click on and hopefully find useful. I will, again, try to be bolder with some topics, but I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not interested in hot takes. So that kind of gives you the overview. And looking at the clock, we are on track to hopefully keep it under 20. Let's see if we can do it. So the big question that I had to answer for myself, and when I've talked to a few people who have been more than supportive, is what really led to this point of wanting to go fully independent, starting your own company and owning it. 2 years ago, Arena in the Boardroom was created. Around this time, beginning of May, was when the Arena in the Boardroom was created. And about 6-7 months later, going into 2024, we changed it to Versify. And that's where we have the content on Versify. And again, this process, I was still in school at that point, getting a year away from finishing up. The end game was always to have something independent. You just don't know where it's going to lead until it leads you somewhere. And I owned that content back then. The contributors owned their content, but the platform itself, I owned it. I just didn't really have anything registered. So to be at this point now where you go through the process of filing an LLC, you go through the process of getting a website, all the compliance paperwork, it is really weird to say that you own your own company legally. Like it's kind of jarring. It's cool, but it's weird, right? Because the implications of it are very large. It's your name. Everything about it is you, the success and the failure of it. But that's also a challenge that I relish. And when I talk about what led up to this point, that is a lot of it. It was a lot of feeling like your name was tied to things that you just weren't really fully bought into, right? I've worked a ton of jobs. I'm 31 years old. So in my 20s, I was able to find my way into 9 different industries. I've worked in 6 different states, every time zone in the US. You accrue a lot. And the process of finding something that is actually at your level of qualifications, now having a doctoral degree too, is exhausting. And in a lot of ways, I think people misunderstand what it is you are looking for. My mindset was, I just want to find a job so that I can do the things that I want to do. And looking back at all the interviews that I had, I probably expressed that a little bit more than what people wanted to hear. They wanted to hear somebody was committed to them, their structure. And in all honesty, I was and still am committed to myself. And that sounds selfish, but that's kind of the millennial mindset. And there is a whole lot here that goes into that. And I'm working on a piece that I'm still debating of whether or not that's going to be a podcast or an article. But the millennial mindset is very going independent, and in a lot of ways because we have to, and sometimes a little bit earlier than we thought. So again, this was the end game. My plan was to do something like this in my 40s, to create your own consulting business where you're working with other entities and doing it on a full-time basis. That was my thought for we have kids. That's going to be where I transition to. Plans change. And do I keep risking the insanity, or do I choose sanity versus everything else that's happening? And that's what I did. But the key indicator that happened was, as I was looking through these jobs, and my God, the job search is exhausting. I've said that plenty of times, and I'm looking at other people who are doing it, whether they have work or not. I've talked to a lot of people, and I was given the boost that I needed from somebody who pretty much told me to stop being dumb and to just go do something on my own. And I think what it took was somebody who didn't know me to tell me, hey, you realize you're going to be a whole lot better and happier if you do this. Essentially, you shouldn't work for somebody who's less qualified than you because you're not going to want to take orders from them. And again, it sounds smug, it sounds conceited, but when you've got a doctoral degree, when you've got a ton of qualifications behind your name, she was right. And I think in my heart of hearts, I always knew that that was the case, but I was trying to force feed something that really was never going to work. And maybe all those interviews that I had, those roles that I didn't end up with, it was for the better, because in all honesty, I was probably just going to be there for 6 months until something else came anyway. And then I was going to bolt and go do something that I actually wanted. So here is me doing the thing that I actually wanted to do. So why me? What is exactly what I'm doing? What is OIAS, Outsider Information's Adaptive Strategy Lab? It's consulting, and I'm doing it with my twist. I'm doing it with a focus on small businesses, startups in mind. And I've got what I believe is a pretty good and unique model based off of how I've worked with these entities in the past. And I've been doing it pretty passively since I moved here to San Diego, working with smaller entities, kind of working my way in, and then realizing, oh wait, there are other ways that we can help each other. So the work trickling in isn't going to take a year, right? Because some of it is already there, and I've already built some of those relationships. But there's going to be a climb. And when I look at how I built this out, why me? What am I going to provide that others don't? Forget the qualifications for a second. I go back to why I started coaching back in 2012. And it was to be a coach that I wanted to play for. And when I look at this, it's to be a resource that other people feel like that they can trust. I want to help, but I want to be able to do it my way. And when I look at how a lot of people offer advice, offer consulting, give back, there's always a string attached. And I've always hated the transactional element that comes with so many aspects of our society. And I don't believe that knowledge and resources should be gatekept. I think that people should have access. I've said many times, my doctoral degree, it's really cool. But if you give 10 other people the same circumstances as me, could they do the exact same thing? I think they absolutely could. They have to put in the work, and I think that's the differentiator of why I have what I have and why maybe some others don't, is that I did put in the work. But it's not because I am this much better or greater than anybody else who could just accomplish the same exact thing. I just don't believe that. And recognizing that, I think I've got a responsibility to give some of what I've accrued back. And I should be able to give it back in a way that is not prohibitive and not in a way that makes people feel like they can't access it. It's not, you should be where I'm at. It's how can I get you to a place where you can get to where I'm at. That is how we lift the world and the people around us back up. I also like parity. I think everyone should have that shot. And while what I'm saying, it sounds lofty and broad and I want to do all this good, I also recognize I'm not going to save the world. I can't save the world. I just want to make sure I do my part in not making the world a worse place. So that's really it. Now, that's all the nice stuff, but the qualifications definitely do help. There's not a whole lot of people doing what I'm going to be doing in the business consulting world that, at least in our area, I can't speak broadly, but that have their doctorate in human resources. It's just not something as common, not with just the percentage of people with doctoral degrees, but the specific degree that I have. And I think I'm uniquely positioned to contribute a lot of good, especially as crazy as the world is getting with the tariffs and business and all that. So I think that I can do some really good stuff here. But that doesn't come without a lot of thoughts, fears, and anxiety. Those are all real, tangible, and present. You are not ever really going to be prepared for it. And there's things like that that are out there. Say having kids is that way, which we're going to be potentially going towards that path in the next year or two as well. Sometimes you just have to go do it. And in the article that I put out in conjunction with this podcast, you'll feel that. You will see exactly what that means, because it's not easy. And I certainly don't want to just sell anybody and just say, oh yeah, you can just go into business for yourself. There's a lot of intentionality that has to go with it, especially when it happens as quick as it does in this case, like 3 weeks. Like, everything wasn't built in 3 weeks, but the biggest amount of work that I did to get this up off the ground was done in the last 3 weeks. And when we go live, in less than a month, everything was put together. And you ask yourself so many questions. Your worth. Are your qualifications really enough? Am I going to have an issue doing something different? Because this is a world that likes people that conform. When you push boundaries, you tend to get slapped back to reality, because people really don't like that, as it threatens the status quo. All these things are and were in my head as I was getting this built out, because you have to take everything into account. I am really aware of the climb. Right? It's not going to be easy. Despite some of the business I'm already going to have, despite the work that I've done in the past, despite knowing what I will be able to do, I've got a network, which is something that I hate doing. I've got to advertise. I've got to self-promote. There's a lot here, because this is now going to be the main thing. And lucky for me, right, I am with a very supportive wife who is thrilled that I get to do this. My mom, she is the one who's been telling me for the last couple of years I need to do this, but I didn't listen, because again, it came from somebody who knew me and loved me, and I wanted to do something my way. It just turns out my way is to do it this way. But there's a lot. And if I was going to tell anybody who was thinking about venturing out on their own and doing something like this, whether it's consulting or whether it's something else's, you just have to do it. If it's something you want to do, you just have to do it. You got to be smart with it. You got to plan for it. Income is coming in through both of us. Obviously, my wife, because she's a full-time provider in her field, there's definitely that balance. But because of that imbalance, but because of that, and because there is income coming in, I have the liberty to do something like this, where you get to build some stuff back up to make it more consistent. But again, I said this at the beginning, it all falls on you, which is nice, but there's always that little voice in your head of, what if this fails? What if it doesn't work? What if things don't go the way that you wanted them to? And I think it's always going to be there, even when this is fully built, fully fleshed out. It's going to be there. And you just have to tell that voice to be quiet, because you're going to make this work and you're going to make this happen. And that's kind of what I default back to. I feel like I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this happen, because it's what I've done my whole life, from professional, from life, from everything. So I'm not worried. Excited isn't the word, but I definitely feel ready to really press forward and make this what it should be. And I'm excited to start putting my client list together and really start making an impact in a way that I wanted to. So, yeah, we'll cap on that. But I do have a couple of concerns, not really for me, but kind of what this means for the future. I mentioned that millennial mindset, just kind of how things have been expedited for a lot of us, and we're making our decisions to go independent now. I look at myself, I look at my wife, I look at some of my friends. We're all between 28 and 30, 31, 32. And we've all had careers, long careers. A lot of us advanced degrees. I have a doctoral degree. My wife was a pharmacist and decided that after 6 years she wanted to be a physician assistant. She's had a great career and now is starting a brand new one with 2 medical degrees at 31 years old. It's kind of insane when you think about it, but you've got so many people making changes, so many people watering themselves down also with side hustles in the gig economy. Jobs aren't paying well enough. People are just going solo. My question is in 20, 30 years, because for us, our generation, we're going to be working for a while. We've got at least 30 more years of work, probably 40, because this is America. How good is that going to be for the economy? Are we just going to have a bunch of mercenaries in their late 40s, 50s, and 60s doing independent work? I don't know what that looks like, but when you have situations where jobs aren't paying well enough and living expenses keep going up, people are realizing that the best way to make money for themselves is to go independent. And I jumped right on that train as well, seeing what some friends have done, and decided that this was going to be the best decision for me now, and obviously going ahead the next 30, 40 years. I said that there was a collapse coming in the workforce, and the collapse is happening in real time. We're seeing a lot of people get laid off. We're seeing people irresponsibly throw AI into different aspects of work, which, let's be honest, that's going to fail. And people are having to make real decisions. So I don't know what it's going to look like. I just know that I'm going to have a front row seat for all of it, not just doing the work, but also seeing how everybody reacts, because people who are having to look for work for the first time in a very long time are going to get a real cruel reality of how the process has changed. And I feel for them. I really do. So we're over. We did not keep it under 20 minutes, but I don't think that was rust. I think I just had more stuff in here than I thought. But we're almost out of here. In addition to what I've got on OIAS, I will say it is very refreshing to know what the plan is. I've always kind of liked having that security of knowing that there's something moving forward. But if I will say anything, it's that passive actions really help with future projects. We all have dreams and aspirations, things we want to do. And while I wouldn't say this is a dream, I've run enough departments, I've run enough entities, whether it be personal or helping others, that I kind of knew what I would want to do if I was going to ever venture into something of myself. So again, the shell of everything was built. I just put everything inside of it. So I will say that if you've got things that you want to do, future projects, keep toying with them, because someday that might be the day that you're just going to be like, I'm going to go do this. And you're going to have everything there, and you're going to be able to do a 3-week sprint of your own to getting everything up and going. I did mention that I've got work trickling in already. I had some stuff assigned to me before I even had the LLC formed. So that's exciting. Now that this thing is going to be up and running, I can focus just on those projects and getting content and things made. And because I've got the LLC, I can potentially now add a DBA to it and do something else that I've really wanted to do, which is kind of have a tea shop. I've joked that my retirement plan is to open a tea shop somewhere on the beach, but having a physical location is a pain in the butt. And there are ways that I can use my love of tea and do something with it in a positive way as well. So be on the lookout for that. I do plan on tossing that into the equation too. Side quests. I talk about wanting to do side quests. Earlier it was about finding a job so I could just go do other things that I wanted to do. Well, that's now all in play. I've wanted to teach for some time. Again, I was a coach, and coaching is just an extension off of the education tree with teaching. That's now in play, and it's in play in a lot of different ways, because the roles that I was looking for wouldn't have allowed for teaching full time, and I'm also not qualified to teach full time. So you have to kind of look at it that way. But with my experience, my degree, adjuncting is a real possibility. I'd probably want to do it at the 2-year level because my journey started there. I coached at a 2-year school. There's a lot of good that I would want to do there. And outside of student loans, I want to be debt free. I think that that's a realistic possibility. Crazy enough, moving cross country to California was expensive. You accrue a little bit of debt in doing so. But I think realistically, being debt-free for us, outside of student loans again, is realistic by the end of the year. And that's going to feel really good. But the main thing is working independently, bringing in income on your terms, is going to give you the freedom to do really anything that you want. And I'm excited for that thought, that possibility. I value autonomy, and I think we all value some of that autonomy and agency. So that's where we're at to present. And again, I'm excited to share that with you. I feel ready to get this up off the ground. And all I'm going to say is visit the website. It's all in the description. Reach out with questions. I'm in a position now where I'm going to be asking you to like, share, and subscribe. So if there's anything that we talk about that's interesting, substantive, that you think is helpful, comment. I read them. I will read them. And I appreciate everyone who's been a part of this, coming from Spotify, those who are going to be a part of it here on YouTube. And again, I do have free resources on the website, as well as what this is going to be. I plan on having a job board on there to give people access into different roles. Right now, locally here in San Diego, none are up yet, but we're going to get that going. And some community resources as well. And I'm always open to a conversation. So if you've got something you want to talk about and think this is the place to do it, let's make it happen. All right. So on that, when this will be up, it'll be Monday. So happy Monday, everybody. And I own a company. Crazy, right? So thanks, and I will see everybody again soon.